Thanks for having me, man. An absolute honor to be.
It's been a while.
2017 is when I met you.
2017? I think it was at a Doug Marquita?
And Fred Mastro. Yeah, I think you were there for SHOT Show.
Yep. Tell us about yourself, Marty. Who are you? Who's Marty Lee?
I live in San Francisco, first off, and I work as a paramedic with the fire department. San Francisco Fire Department. Been doing that for almost 10 years now. And on my free time, I train NBC.
Okay, so one thing I like about you is you're really humble about it. You're not telling people what you do. I mean, one of the things, again, you say you do paramedic, right? I think one thing that's really cool about you is you do the knife thing, but you also bring a professionalism because of what you do. I think there's very few people in the world that can look at the knife and they can train it, but few people see what a knife will actually do. And I think you've seen that more than a few times.
A lot of people who think they know how a knife attack actually works, you think you stick them in the stomach and they explode. But based on my experience running calls where people are stabbed, they don't really die right away. They actually fight back. When we get on scene, they're bleeding out, obviously, but they're talking to me. And we do our best to bring them to the hospital as quickly as possible. Remember one call, it was the first death of 2015, and it was a homeless couple. There were, the boyfriend had a machete and slashed, thrusted the girl, if I recall, 16 times.
Wow.
When I got on the scene, it was brutal. We packaged her up within about 4 minutes, and we had to get through from one side of town to the trauma center that's on the other side of town, and it was raining during traffic hours. So even going lights and sirens, it took a long time. But once you get stabbed, you don't die right away. You have to bleed out, and it's based on how fast your heart beats. She was punctured in the lung, and she couldn't breathe. I remember one point, it was pretty scary. She said, "I couldn't breathe," and then I heard this. I said, "Take a deep breath." And normally you hear, right?
Yeah.
It was like this.
So no sound.
No sound at all.
Yeah.
And then I remember needle decompressing her. It was successful, but she was bleeding out pretty fast to the point where I couldn't put enough fluids to keep her conscious. But she didn't pass in the ambulance. By the time we got to the ER, and it took about 15 minutes.
What's the whole time from you started working on her until she got there? 15 minutes.
About 15 minutes.
Yeah.
The minute we transfer her off the gurney into the hospital gurney, that's when she coded or went flatline. They couldn't bring her back. But it's really interesting how the world in watching movies portray, knife attacks versus when you actually get stabbed. It's completely different.
Yeah. Well, interesting you say that, and again, with your background, I think it's kind of a unique look. They kind of look at the way a lot of systems are taught, and like say, somebody gets stabbed and they don't immediately burst into flames. When you arrived at something like that, were they still conscious? Were they laid
Absolutely.
out?
They're conscious, they're moving, they're obviously in shock. Their heart's beating really, really fast and they're bleeding out. But our response time is really quick because San Francisco is about 7 miles this way and that way, So the closest unit usually responds under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And once we get there, we work pretty quick because these type of traumas are a surgical procedure. There's not much we can do in the field. So if we want to prolong their life, we have to get them to an operating room as quickly as possible.
Oh, wow. So based on that, your experience with the medical side of things, and then also you've trained several martial arts, I believe, correct?
Yeah, I've started off with Wing Chun. I've done a little bit of BJJ, and before I got into NBC, it was Filipino martial arts, FMA.
So what attracts you? I know you've been an NBC instructor now multiple years. What kind of attracted you to NBC? Like, why, given your background and what you do, why do you like NBC?
Well, NBC kind of found me, in a way. I've always wanted to learn knife stuff. Since watching like Jason Bourne and The Hunted.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That really got me going. I was like, wow, what teaches that? And I found it was like Filipino martial arts. So I went to the school and I learned a lot of cool stuff, but I didn't understand the legality aspect of it. And they never taught us that. And the confidence that they gave us, if we get into a fight, just pull out your knife, you can end them, And I thought that was okay until I found NBC through Mike Janich's DVD, where he talks, he front loads the information, his disclaimer. He's talking about, when you can use a knife and when it's appropriate to use a knife. And I was like, wait a second, this isn't taught in Filipino martial arts. And since I worked on an ambulance and if I ever have to, God forbid, I want to be able to protect myself.
Yeah.
So that's what drew me to NBC, and the efficiency of it, where you educate your gross motor skills versus learning a fine motor skills, and to master that would take you like 40, 50 years or never.
Yeah, a long process.
Exactly.
Yeah. So with that in mind, as far as, you live in an area where you probably can own a gun, but it's probably more restrictive on what you can carry.
Absolutely.
What would you say to somebody that lives in an area like you do as far as being able to protect themselves? Because I've been to San Francisco a few times, and it's a little wild there sometimes.
It is. It is. Recently, I think within the last 2 years, they've introduced CCW back to us.
Oh, they have?
Yeah, but you have to go through a really strict process. And then there's a new SB, I think it was SB 40 law. I double checked that one, but it's a new law that was passed for California where you can't carry a weapon inside certain areas like public schools, concert venues, bars.
Yep.
And that includes their parking lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so, I feel like the places where they ban concealed carry is probably where you need it the most.
Probably the most, yeah.
So when I come in and teach, I teach with another company called Leo Defensive Concepts, and they're run by Joe and Archie. They're both former law enforcement and SWAT lead also. And they found me on Instagram, and we connected, and they teach gun tactics the way that we teach NBC.
Oh, wow.
So we front load all the information about the law and all that stuff, and they brought me in because I was able to teach the knife defense tactics, where if you can't carry a gun or you don't have a CCW license, you can carry a knife.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of interesting dynamic. You look at the ability to carry a weapon throughout the country, it varies.
Yeah.
And so pretty cool that you can look, okay, here in San Francisco, this is what I have the ability to carry. You've put time into it, not only to make yourself safer, but others. So with that in mind, do you have any recommendations as far as blade lengths or types of blades, or what you would carry if you were in?
Yeah, so the laws in San Francisco, you have your state laws and your county laws, and the county laws, it's very wishy-washy. They don't really say what you can carry, but there's one states you can't carry a blade longer than 3 inches while loitering. So what does loitering mean?
What does that mean?
Right? So just because it has that rule, I'm going to say keep your knife at 3 inches. So you cover all aspects of it. There's also another law in San Francisco that says you can carry a tool that's 3 inches or longer, but it has to be used as a tool, right? Yeah. And if you use it, you have to be able to explain why you used your knife and why you're carrying it and what you use the knife for, right?
Yeah.
And then for the California state, you can literally carry any type of folder as long as it's not concealed, but you have to follow the county law supersedes the state law.
Yeah, so a folder only, can you carry a fixed blade as far as
So
California?
for California, you're not allowed to carry a fixed blade concealed.
Okay.
And what that means is even if the handle is shown or little parts of the sheath is showing, the fixed blade, that's considered concealed.
Yeah.
You have to be able to have it in plain view, so if someone walks up to you and looks at you, they know that you have a fixed blade.
Okay.
That's considered not concealed. Hey, if they can't see it, then it's concealed.
That's interesting. That's one thing, I hear a lot is people say, well, why do you carry a folder? And I think that's a perfect example of it is, but as far as like your development, I know, like we talked about, you've trained other systems. How do you find time? You're a paramedic, you're busy with other things. How do you find time to train? What does your training look like? How often do you train with students? What does your life look like?
If life doesn't get in the way, when I'm not working, I'm training. Work brings trauma to the brain, and NBC allows me to be in the moment, be aware, because NBC tactics takes that type of awareness.
Yeah.
So I'm focusing on a student or focusing training on myself. I'm not thinking about anything else. So I want to front load my brain, like kind of using neuroplasticity to find peace.
Yeah.
So I train a lot because my work, I see a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I try to put in at least 16 hours a week.
Wow.
Of NBC. I train with students every day that I'm not working.
Everybody talks about knives and guns and that kind of thing. I'll just shoot you. How would you look at that? Like, I'm a gun guy for a living. That's what I do, is I teach gun stuff. And people, when they talk about knife stuff, they're like, yeah, I'll just shoot you. And half the time when you ask them, it's like, hey, where's your gun? It's like, well, it's in my truck. What's your recommendation as far as like training? What should you focus on? Are there things that will make you better prepared, things that maybe you shouldn't focus on, or things you should focus on? Like, what makes somebody, if somebody had no experience and they were really maybe concerned, let's say somebody there in San Francisco, and they're like, man, I'm really afraid, but I don't have 16 hours a week to train, or even 3 hours a week. What would you recommend for somebody like that maybe is fearful of the things that are going on around them, but maybe just doesn't have a lot of time?
I would say, there's a saying where, oh, you go to one class, you're not going to learn anything.
Yeah.
I think that's crap. I think if you teach logic concepts and educating a gross motor skill that's been ingrained into us through 1,000 years of evolution, and you as an instructor, you can identify the student's weakness, and it's usually their confidence and maybe potentially uncoordination, right? And as an instructor, you have to be able to identify that and then determine what type of learner they are: audio, visual, kinesthetics. Some maybe mix and match of both or all of them, and then set up a time and train with them for an hour, and ask what their goals are and what they're afraid of, and attack that, and teach whatever technique or concepts, and not use, because if they don't know, if they're too scared to hit anyone and they're afraid, then you cannot teach them any physical skills. You can't teach them tactics because of that, the lack of confidence. But we can teach them is using the tactics of the mind, being aware, right? If you're going to carry your grocery bag, walking in and out of a grocery store into a dark parking lot, don't carry it in your dominant hand. Carry it in your non-dominant hands. That's pretty simple, Carry a flashlight, flash it around. Will people think they're crazy? Nah, who cares, right? Your safety comes first. Check your surroundings, make sure no one's there. And before you get in your car, look around. Like these simple things, because as long as you're aware, you can avoid. If you can avoid, you can de-escalate. If you can't de-escalate, you have to set a boundary setting. And once that boundary is crossed, you already told your attacker 3 times, then you go hands-on. But normally, if you are aware, you don't ever get past awareness avoidance. You're able to escape violence. So paying attention is very important. And for people who don't have time to train, you train them tactics of the mind.
So being aware kind of what's going on with their surroundings, and just being cognitive of what's happening around.
Walk across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone coming by that looks sketchy, walk across the street. Very simple.
You've got somebody that's maybe timid to train, but they need training, and that's what I see a lot of times is maybe people that need training the most are most hesitant to go to a class. What would you recommend to somebody like that that's like, I know I need some help, but I don't dare go train with a group of people. It makes me kind of nervous.
Maybe give them confidence to want to step into a classroom, into a safe environment. And how do you find what's a good system, right?
Yeah.
As long as you go, if you say I give you a website, you check that out, I give you a book, you read it, and it catches your attention, and you like it, and then you find a class, and then you see an instructor, you should be able to ask questions, right?
Yeah.
If your instructor that's teaching you whatever art it is, and they're like, don't ask questions, this is how we do it. No, absolutely not. You should be able to ask any question about anything that you learn, and your instructor should have a reason why to it. And it better be logical, it better be conceptual, and it better be educating gross motor skills. Otherwise, you're in the wrong class.
Yeah.
Right? There's a difference between martial arts, combatives, and self-protection, right? Self-defense, right? What's the first word in self-defense? Self. So you got to be able to want to protect yourself. And if you're scared, that's a you problem. It's hard to say, but you have to push past that and find information, do your research for a good instructor, or a good DVD that can lead you to a good instructor, or with a book, same thing.
Yeah. I appreciate that about you as far as, I've attended probably about 50 classes in the last 5 years with other instructors. One thing I admire about you is you're very knowledgeable, you put a lot of time and work into it, but you're also super approachable. And I think that's a critical piece that people are missing sometimes. They just think, hey, I need this, but when they really can find somebody that has good information. So how could somebody find Marty Lee? How do they come find you? How do they come train with you? What's the, or are you even allowing more students like right now? What do you?
Yeah, I take on students, but I look for quality over quantity. So If you're afraid to train, but you want to get better at it, and you truly want to invest your time into taking the next step, I want to train with you. Awesome, right? But I'm always willing to help everybody because we all start somewhere. I remember when I was scared, everything can be taught as long as the student wants to excel. They truly want to spend their time and energy to be better. You can reach me on social media. It's train_until_forever. Same with Facebook. Website is www.trainuntilforever.com. Or you can email me at marty@trainuntilforever.com. Or you can reach out to Adam Boyce and he'll give you my information.
I will share his information.
What an honor, man.
Yeah.